We've all been there, haven't we? That feeling of embarrassment that'd make one desire to sink right into the ground or wish they were invisible, usually accompanied with a gasp of silence. Today, we take a look at several NBA players' most embarrassing moments. How bad were these moments? With cameras capturing these Hall of Shame moments, how do they deal with these awkward situations? Let's find out. No one ever plans to have an awkward moment. This was Nick Young after shooting a three. Felt confident, but ended up bricking. One would cringe in embarrassment at the mere thought of this. This reminds of the old saying, do not count your chickens before they have hatched. Here is more. When you're getting into a rhythm on the court, it would feel like the rim is a mile wide and you can't miss. Pretty sure it's how Nick Young felt in the middle of a blowout game in 2014. The awkward moment took place at the tail end of a game with the Lakers recording 51 points in the fourth quarter, when Nick Young contributed to the blowout by nailing 5 straight. He was feeling invincible when he took another three-point jumper and turned his back to the basket to raise his arms and flash the three-point hand signal, intending to continue showboating for what would quickly turn into an awkwardly hilarious moment. That was when he realized the ball did not go in, and Nick Young had to cut prematurely his celebration and was back defending. It was a relatively funny and embarrassing moment, not one for Nick to think so much over though. However, with the thought of it, pretty sure he'd be cringing. Up next, celebrations gone wrong. Have there been shows of embarrassing celebrations? This is the story of when Nate Robinson tries jumping over Paul Pierce in a celebration. Find out more. It was the closing minutes of a heated back-and-forth matchup, moments both fans and players live for. The game itching for a potential clutch play that would erupt a rabid crowd and elicit shouts of excitement. Usually if one is successful, there are high fives all around, chest bumps, smacks on the rear, and all kinds of amped-up celebrations common with the NBA players. In 2010, the Boston Celtics and New York Knicks were playing down to the wire in a close game on what was a perfect clutch moment. That came when Paul Pierce was able to seal the game with a jumper, extremely buzzing and having the fans screaming. Paul Pierce ran onto the other end of the court to celebrate and showboat his great play. Fellow teammate Nate Robinson, sharing in the celebration, rushed to jump on Paul Pierce's back, but Paul Pierce wasn't having it, resulting in an awkward fall that nearly broke Nate Robinson's neck. Celebration quickly turned sour as it became about how to help Nate up after suffering such a fall. Find out the penalty for laughing. In an Angry Ref episode, Tim Duncan was ejected by NBA ref Joey Crawford for laughing. Retired NBA official Joey Crawford has long carried a reputation as a no-nonsense referee that would not tolerate players complaining and questioning his calls. He also had a confusing beef with one of NBA history's greatest power forwards in Tim Duncan, so much so that he famously ejected Duncan merely for laughing on the bench, and what is one of the most embarrassing and bizarre incidents of the sport to be caught on camera. This happened during a regular game in 2007 when Joey Crawford gave the Spurs franchise player back-to-back technical fouls simply because he was laughing on the bench during a game against the Dallas Mavericks. Just laughing. More hilarious was when he even challenged Duncan to a fight if he refused his instruction. Joey Crawford went on to be suspended by the league for the rest of the season, which was an understandable decision, and he was also made to see a psychologist due to his unsteady temperament. This is nuts. Up next is the awkward moment Reggie Evans grabs Chris Kamen's nuts during an NBA game. If this wasn't caught on the camera, it'd be a debate if this event was true or not. Playing in the NBA, players always put in their best and sometimes do whatever they can to gain an advantage when it comes to dueling to grab rebounds or getting into favorable positioning for the basket. Players sometimes get away with elbows and tugging on a player's shorts, but grabbing a player's nuts is completely nuts. At a game in 2006, Reggie Evans was guiding the ball from Chris Kaman, which resulted in the incident. Chris Kaman was fuming and committed a foul after shoving Evans. Commenting after the game, Chris Kaman stated, "He grabbed my nuts. This dude reached from behind me, grabbed my nuts and pulled them backwards. He tried to rip them off, basically." With Reggie Evans incurring a fine of $10,000, he was assessed for a flagrant. An apology was issued to Chris Kaman. However, this embarrassing and awkward moment would remain golden. Fortunately for other NBA players, Reggie Evans is no longer in the league. You know what that means. Up next is one for the slipping awkwardly on the court. This time, however, from a very unlikely player. Stay tuned. Steph Curry hasn't provided NBA fans with many embarrassing moments to make fun of throughout his career. Already proving to be one of the most prolific shooters in league history, he seemingly goes viral on a nightly basis with more mesmerizing handles or another impossible three-pointer. But back in 2019, Curry gave us one of the most hilarious NBA moments of the decade when he slipped and fell during a breakaway. Steph Curry's normally normally the one who humiliates opposing players on the court with his otherworldly scoring ability, but he finally became the butt of the joke a few years ago. In a game with just over 2 minutes left in the quarter, with a Lakers player losing control on a drive to the basket and throwing an ill-advised pass right to Curry's chest, Curry took off the other way for an uncontested layup or dunk, but he would never even make it that far. As Curry loaded up for a flashy finish, he slipped on the court and wiped out directly under the basket. He hopped right back up and bolted to the corner for a three-pointer to redeem himself, but he only made things worse as he airballed the three-point attempt. Up next, speaking of the devil, what happens when you walk into the middle of a press conference you have no idea about? Here's such an embarrassing and cringeworthy moment. There are brutal cringeworthy moments, and then there are moments that are so awkwardly painful that perhaps you'd wish death would be the sweetest escape. Probably what Stan Van Gundy felt in one of the most awkward sports interviews of all time. Van Gundy, who is Dwight Howard's coach, talked candidly to reporters about Howard and how he is certain that Howard wants him fired, and voila! Mere seconds later, Howard appears on camera with his coach, putting his arm around him, wearing all smiles. Dwight Howard is oblivious of whatever is happening or being discussed. Van Gundy quickly tried changing the topic and slipped out of the interview. Reporters were having no part of that when they quickly turned to Dwight Howard and asked if the statement that he wanted Van Gundy sacked was true. Oh, how so embarrassing. One would genuinely wonder what would run through his mind. What happens when a reporter gets irritatingly annoying? Here is Westbrook's reaction. Elite point guard Russell Westbrook isn't the most media-friendly athlete and has often shown his disdain for pre- and post-game interviews. After taking a loss against the Utah Jazz, a disappointed Westbrook was finishing up getting dressed in the locker room when having reporters surrounding him to ask questions. The annoying reporter asked a question: "Did you lose this one, or did the Utah Jazz win this game?" So cringe. This got Westbrook mad, making him give a meme-worthy reply. He wore a classic disgusted and confused look on his face before turning his back on the reporter. "I'm out, man. Y'all trippin'." Continuously repeating this statement, one can't help but laugh and cringe at the same time from the absurdity of the event. Up next, Coach left unaware during an interview. A very embarrassing event happened when Philadelphia 76ers coach Maurice was gobsmacked that his two-star players weren't at the arena to play that night's game 55 minutes before tip-off. Maurice confidently granted an interview where he mentioned and heaped praises on Allen Iverson, calling him the ultimate game changer, before he was notified by the reporter that Allen Iverson and Chris Webber were not going to be playing that night's game. In what was becoming a media disaster, Cheeks went into the locker room to check and discovered none were present. Covered in shame, he came back at the reporters and informed them in a highly disappointing fashion that neither of them would be playing. Bowing his head in shame, he was asked if he was disappointed, and he reacted with very short remarks. "I'm done, man, I'm done," and exited. Yeesh, that's one for the Hall of Shame. And that's all for now. We hope you enjoyed that. And are there other very golden moments that we didn't add? Lock them down with us in the comments section. And if you loved the video, good news. There are plenty more to come from here, so stick around for more.